Mr. Gulmurad Kalimov. In 2017, he was reportedly killed. In 2020, again, he was reportedly killed, this time in Deir ez-Zor province inside Syria. But there are, I would say, conflicting reports when it comes to his survivability, or, in general terms, whether he was killed or not. On repeatedly basis, warning of a potential attack inside United States, Al Qaeda 2 or 9/11 2 type of attack, which is going to have tremendous repercussions for the entire world, especially for the United States of America. Sarah Adam claims that US is funding both not only the Haqqani network but as well as ISKP. This is very strange coming from them.
Yeah, you said that international order is collapsing. I think technically it has collapsed. Yeah, I think that is the larger game, but you ultimately don't know how these fringe groups and terrorist groups would start behaving. Europe should actually avoid, America should avoid long wars, because ultimately demographics will decide.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, ISKP is the agenda of today's topic. There is huge hue and cry ongoing regarding the terrorist activities of this group, especially in the region, inside AFPAC region, inside Central Asian region, targeting of Russians, as well as how this group was active in Syria and Iraq as well during the initial times of ISIS, which was the main news item of the Western media outlets throughout the Syrian and Iraqi history back in 2015 and 2016 and then 2017. There was an interesting documentary which came up regarding it. It raised a lot of alarms, especially for Tajikistan military, their government, when one of their special forces commanders, a lieutenant colonel basically, he went and defected to ISIS inside Iraq and later operated as one of their major recruitments from the Tajikistan and Central Asian belts, and ensured that a lot of fighters from these regions do join ISIS in the main war effort inside Syria as well as inside Iraq. A brief background regarding Mr. Gulmurad Kalimov is that he was a special forces operative, basically came from police inside Tajikistan. He was extensively researched as a sniper when it comes to anti-extremist wings inside Tajikistan as well. And other than that, he received his training from Spetsnaz group inside Russia in his early 2006. And afterwards, he also received training by US officials inside United States in 2008 and 2009. And a big special forces unit's name always comes in. It's the Oman Group. And this is basically the foundation stone of an anti-terrorism unit inside Tajikistan, receiving funds from United States as well as from Russia, received extensive training in special operations, in what special forces usually do. Other than that, in 2014, it was reported that this strange lieutenant colonel out of nowhere is missing. And then in May 2015, after reported missing persons, I would say requests coming from Tajikistan as well as from the military searching for this individual, a video circulated on YouTube regarding the regarding the presence of Mr. Kalimov in Iraq, in which he basically pointed out his reasons behind him joining ISIS groups, as well as he condemned the United States, as well as also pointed out that they use extensive training against Muslims and use of vodka and all alcoholic beverage, all that hodgepodge. But afterwards, in 2017, he was reportedly killed. In 2020, again, he was reportedly killed, this time in Deir ez-Zor province inside Syria. But there are, I would say, conflicting reports when it comes to his survivability, or, in general terms, whether he was killed or not. According to many Tajikistani officials, they suggest that he is working in a new alias name and he is operating inside Afghanistan, and now is having a pioneer role in the ISKP project, which has been ongoing since 2018 and 2019. Other than that, a lot of American former officials, when it comes to CIA operatives that have been working inside AFPAC region, that have been working in Benghazi. Sarah Adams, very famous when it comes to labeling US and its sponsorship of terrorism, whether inside Afghanistan, inside Syria or Libya, has come up with that Mr. Karimov is alive, is working with Hamza bin Laden, son of Osama bin Laden, and is sponsoring terrorism all across the region. And she is on repeatedly basis warning of a potential attack inside United States, an Al Qaeda 2 or 9/11 2 type of attack, which is going to have tremendous repercussions for the entire world, especially for the United States of America. But America has a history of actually, supplying weapons to ISIS, as well as, sponsoring such terrorist organizations in order to achieve its goals. We can witness how America facilitated HTS. They have now removed Mr. Julani's name from the most wanted list, as well as terrorist watch group list. Other than that, back in 2017, airstrikes were carried out in the province of Deir ez-Zor again, but it helped in ISIL advance in that region. This is primarily the source of when the Russians as well as the opposition groups inside Syria pointed out that United States has sponsoring ISIS units. Then there were reports of ISIS having artillery shells coming from Israel, very absurd news, but there was some truth to that as well. Robert F.K. Jr. in his recent speech actually said during his foreign policy speech during his times when primaries were being selected by the Republicans, he said that it is us, the Americans, who have made ISIS or ISKP, whatever name you want to call it now. So, in order to discuss this issue, we have with us Mr. Waqar Kekor. We said this new type of, terrorism sponsorship by great powers. I was looking through a profile inside Wikipedia page as well. A lot of sources are reporting that almost every country has some sort of relationship with ISIL, as in hostile relationship as well as supportive relationship.
I think it's quite an enigma. And if you look at the profile of Gulmurad Kalimov, and as you mentioned, he rose from the ranks actually. I think he was a sergeant in the police or special forces, then applied for commission, and then steadily rose to higher ranks, lieutenant colonel, full colonel, and then he was made basically in charge of their special services, something like SSG in Pakistan. He's quite flamboyant. And interestingly, he had a Russian friend, a lady from the forces, who was also enthused by, I think, one of the European documentary in which she said that he was a party man, basically. And then we find him that he was trained with Druzhba in Russia for some time, and later on lands up with probably Blackwater or American Special Forces, and there his tenure is almost more than 1 year. And as he comes back, he become a very, you can say, conservative or hardline Muslim, and starts basically abhorring everything related to the West.
Yeah.
So the girlfriend says that, and he had 2 wives also. One, I think, is still in Tajikistan. The other probably went with him to Iraq with kids. So there is also a story of defection that he vanished, and then the government was searching that head of our special forces is missing. And just after he returned from United States. So this is, I think, very, very interesting. What kind of, I think, weed he was made to basically take. Anyways, he lands up with, and these are the times when ISIL was basically, then it was Daesh, Daulat al-Islami al-Iraq wa Sham, or Islamic State of Levant, and Iraq and Levant. So then he lands up there, and I think he was also deputy to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and later on also worked with Shishani, I think so. So it means that he was probably picked up by the hostile agencies, indoctrinated, and then brought into a command position. Now, if you look at his actions in ISIL in Iraq, mainly I think his operations were in Iraq. It was related to recruiting, people from Central Asia and then feeding it to Syria, and these were used against the Kurds also. And now, Mr. Kennedy was basically also boasting that Kurds have fought the ISIS
Yeah.
in Lebanon. So it's very interesting. You pitch one group against the other, and whosoever dominates, then you start funding that. So there were news that he was taken out by the forces in Middle East, and later on by the Russians also. In some airstrike, there were videos also, and I think his news of his death was, I think, aired almost twice or thrice. And now there are reports which are being substantiated by people like Sarah Adams that he landed up in Takhar province in Afghanistan,
Hmm.
and he has developed some relationship with Taliban. And also we find ISKP hitting Sirajuddin Haqqani's uncle as
Yes.
claimed.
Yes.
So it means even the, I think, picture within Afghanistan is
Well,
not
Sarah
very clear.
Adam claims that US is funding both, not only the Haqqani network but as well as ISKP. This is very strange coming from
Yeah,
them.
so it means basically one is, of course, I would say that there is some problem, uh, especially in the softer states, that you can break people or you can fund them with money and then use them as leaders. So that has been happening. But I think if you look at the final destination, and there have been attacks in Pakistan also claimed by ISIL. And since he has landed up in Afghanistan, the I think attacks have increased.
Hmm.
And today I was looking at some of the reports from Afghan social media that Taliban forces have actually attacked ISIL forces in Pakistan. They were trying to come and fire some shots, and they were retaliated. I think the 6 or 7 posts of TTA and TTP were destroyed on the border, and then they ran. I think they didn't have even ambulance to correct their. But it's unfortunate that on one side you've all kinds of terrorist groups in Afghanistan, and on the other side you are trying to feign, that you are, let's say, victims or innocent. That's where I think the issue of $17.5 billion comes in. That why Cigar found this, and why U.S. government is quiet about it. That they have spent so this much money going to Afghanistan is, I think, raises a lot of questions.
Well, while majority of attacks when it comes to ISKP do occur inside Afghanistan, but they have sponsored a lot of attacks in other regions as well, especially targeting of different ethnicities as well as Shias in Pakistan, Hazara community as well. And other than that, initially, even during the American withdrawal, there were 2 suicide bombings hit on US soldiers. Actually, 13 US soldiers died. Other than that, around 90% of attacks have actually targeted not only Central Asia, Pakistan, Afghanistan as a region, as well as Russia. In March, the concert hall shooting in which around 145 people died. And then recently, back in 17th of December, one of the top generals of Russia, one of the basically the head of atomic unit of Russia was dispatched by an Uzbek fighter who said that he's working for ISIS KP, and that he was basically recruited by the Ukrainians to carry out such an attack. And then now recently 4 other suspects have been arrested, and all of their connections draw to the same group again. uh, Back in in March 2024, I would say that uh, the US actually captured around 8 Tajik people who were trying to sabotage areas inside Philadelphia and region. This also was an activity observed in 2022 as well. Majority of these attacks have been carried out in this region. Whether it comes to Americans sponsoring ISIS in order to achieve their specific goals, or whatever nonsense different nations do come up with, what do you think is the general objective in order to use such a proxy, which is also not only beneficial for you but for others as well in the region? Because we also heard reports that India is also supplying ISKP as well as TTP, which is an offshoot organization of the same group, that just want to keep the region disturbed for other powers while they extract resources and move away.
I think there is a credence to that theory, and now even their ex-CIA, let's say, operatives like Sarah Adams are saying that. This was also confirmed by Ayman Masood. A lot of funding coming to Afghan Taliban. Where it is going, there is no transparency about it. Maybe it comes in garb of humanitarian aid. I don't know why they should, you know, talk of human rights and women rights when they're doing this. And this is, I think, very hard question raised by Ahmed. Why Sarah Adams is raising it? This is also very strange. That she is an ex-CIA, and she was one of the top. Basically, she was a target analyst,
Yeah.
or maybe she would then probably prescribe the targets that CIA would take on. In some of the regions, she worked in Libya. She's done some investigation on Africa, especially the terrorist networks, and also Afghanistan. And we know that Trump is coming on 20th March, and there is definitely an element in Trump's administration, like the Doge Group, Elon Musk, and uh, then you have Vivek Ramaswamy, who's been asked to reform, and they claim that they're going to hit the establishment and maybe cut their wings and make them more accountable. Is it part of the same plan? But I don't know, because if you look at CIA's work, they work in layers. So whatever is visible, maybe it was initiated 5 years back, and now that's why they're called the deep state, actual deep state. So I'll agree with you that the aim may be to keep destabilize some of the regions, especially those are having close proximity to energy resources or mineral resources, or maybe they are important strategically, like Afghanistan. What's called heart of Asia, because its location is such that it touches Central Asia. On this side, it is also part of SAARC or South Asia, and then very much part of Western Asia.
Hmm.
So it affects Iran, Central Asia, and indirectly Russian Federation also. And that's why when some of the Afghan friends claim that they are graveyards of empires, I also conclude that yes, Afghanistan is a graveyard of empires, but it's also graveyard of a lot of Afghan people.
Hmm.
Millions of Afghans were, I would say, uh, sacrificed by superpowers and big power play, and somehow they become a tool of these powers. So maybe they can, I think, rethink over it. So it means that if you look at, let's say, ISIS rise in West Asia, especially when they had almost control of one third of Iraq and part of Syria, and it appeared that probably their grand map of, you know, dismantling the Islamic world and re-establishing the Khilafat was, taking shape. And then we find a reverse, because they were fought by, let's say, the people there, even the Kurds, Iranians, and the Russians. And now we have another arrangement coming, but maybe they are more, I would say, more civilized. But Afghanistan is now becoming a center for all kind of, I think, terror networks.
Yeah.
I don't know about Southeast Asia, because there is also Abu Sayyaf group, which operates in Philippines. They had link with Afghanistan also. So it means that it's becoming a global hub of terrorism. And that's why I think precisely in this year, there were two international diplomatic, regional diplomatic efforts to convince Taliban that this thing cannot work. And then I'll come to what happens to people of Afghanistan.
Hmm.
Can they be hostage to, let's say, these fringe groups and terrorist groups who are destabilizing the entire region? And if Taliban think that they can run the state in good order, it's a huge question. So just remind me that I'll basically decompose. So if you look at Afghanistan now, if you want to, let's say, put pressure on Pakistan to draw concession, it is available. On Iran, anytime, let's say, as we are looking at, some of the theories that probably after, Middle East, they sorted out, or let's say, degraded Hamas and Hezbollah. Now they're going to advance onto Iran. And it means that maybe they also require some base in Afghanistan also,
Hmm.
by terrorist group or whatever. Central Asia becomes very critical, because there was an effort made in Kazakhstan, I think last year or last to last year, where they wanted to basically not destabilize Russian, southeastern flank. And in case Central Asia, any states gets destabilized, like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, it starts impacting Russian Federation and China.
Hmm.
So I think that could be one of the reasons that let these fires burning. You can pump in the dollars, there's no problem. They can print any number
I
of
mean,
dollars.
they're using this resources from lands that they have already occupied. We all know how US exploited the oil reserves inside Iraq, inside Syria. Maybe that same money is being used to supply these terrorist organizations.
Yeah, so that's also, I think, very I would say very smart, but very unfortunate, because they are not bothered about basically the people living there. If you look at some of the conflicts in even in Africa, like DRC,
Hmm.
Democratic Republic of Congo, is a huge country, almost size of India, and now it's being actually ignored by smaller powers, smaller countries, because after their erstwhile president Mabuto, this is now gone into a civil war, but it has huge resources,
Hmm.
and I heard that there are companies who would come dig out those resources in their private jets and go away. So maybe that's also the reason. They also fund the test group through money which is lying in the Swiss banks or in overseas havens, Panama, and like even in case of Bashar al-Assad, it said that this a couple of billions of dollars are lying abroad, and maybe this is used to fund these. So unfortunately, but coming to let's say Afghan people, I think that will be a decisive factor, that they had, if you look at last 40 years, and it started with the occupation of Afghanistan by a superpower.
Hmm.
So let's say Soviet Union of that time, they go out, you have Taliban one coming in, destabilize regime, and then you have Taliban, you have another superpower intervention almost 2 decades. What they were doing, how they allowed Taliban to establish offices in Doha, what was the arrangement? Was this the arrangement? They're going to leave $7 billion worth of ammunition and small arms and weapon systems, and then fund them $17.5 billion in 3 years, and for what? So how much is going to the Afghan people? That's a big question. And are they happy to work in this arrangement? That there are kind of, I would say, militias, some of them are terrorist groups, and then they also have zones of influence. Like if ISIS is now effective closer to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, because from there you can hit across the Oxus River, it means that those areas are also under influence of ISIS. So these have been given as governorates. On the eastern side, you have TTP. We have mentioned in 3, 4 provinces,
Hmm.
starting from Kunnad, Nangarhar, Paktia, Paktika, and Host. So it means probably TTP has governance leverage here. On the west, you go to Herat, where Ismail Khan was there. You have another arrangement, and then you have some arrangement with Turkmenistan, and then probably in the center you have a large area under Taliban. So are the Afghan people having no future? I mean, they are going to be, let's say, ruled by these militias, and for how long? I think that will be a big question. That's why our appeal always to Taliban is that, okay, if Allah has allowed them to establish Islamic rule, then at least behave like Muslims and become a normal country. If you have, I think, if these are the reports regarding Gulmarad Kalimov true. So it means basically they are all hired guns.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we've been witnessing for quite a long time, since 2001 now. The bogey of terrorism and extremism and this all wave started initially during the Bush administration and is now coming up, basically strengthening such organizations in order to achieve regional connectivity and regional goals. Likewise, I said about economic exploitation of such regions. So, if that's the motive behind what the US actually wants out of different regions, is this is actually going to in turn collapse the international system at large, because the immediate adversary for the United States is China and then Russia. So if they can actually disturb the MENA region and Central Asian regions, this could indirectly affect Chinese interests inside the region as well as Russian interests.
Yeah, I think if that is the larger game, but you ultimately don't know how these fringe groups and test group would start behaving.
Hmm.
I think I did a paper on non-state actors, that there are different categories. One is, of course, there is a government, and there is a non-state actor operating within that, fighting against the governments. Maybe it's fringe. Then there are non-state actors who are actually controlling part of the country, like Houthis,
Hmm.
like you had
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Let's say it controls 1/3 of, and then you have non-state actor now holding the states like Taliban.
Hmm.
And one, of course, how does international law applies to that? how, let's say, you do diplomacy with these groups, and what happens to the people. So I think this is a very, very unfortunate, dispensation, but that's how we are living in third decade of 21st century. Mainly, you said that international order is collapsing. I think technically it has collapsed because there's no morality when it comes to, let's say, Russia-Ukraine war. There's a different, I would say, measurement or gadget of human rights, children rights, energy, heating, and food, and immigrants. But when it comes to Gaza and Lebanon, it is different.
Hmm.
Nobody can ask Israelis what are they doing. So it means that already there's a dichotomy, and there are very clear, I would say, defining parameters for human rights and whatever. So it means that any power which has the capacity to, let's say, hold the sway and pressurize the neighbor can get away with it. So now I think we are into, I would say, a very, very different international system. So one is, of course, you should be economically powerful. The other, militarily, you should be powerful.
Mhm.
Because Europe has now found that they were economically very powerful, but by and large they dismantled their military, that they have collective security. But now I think they are running short of human resources. Same is probably even Russians are feeling the pinch, and that's why you have North Koreans going there. So if you look at even what happened in West Asia, the way some of these groups were formed from different nationalities. You have seen Wagner group with Africans. You have seen, Wagner group with people coming from, I don't know, all across the world. Even Americans fighting. So it's like condoitries of Italy.
Mhm.
In let's say 17th century, that you had a king with a lot of money, or let's say dukes, and then they had private armies coming from different areas. Mainly at that time they were from Europe, but you, let's say, had an Italian prince with French and German soldiers fighting against,
Yeah.
his own nation. So I think that is the way it is. So it means that we are into a very, very disruptive area. You also have disruptive technology which have come, like drone, which is now affecting conventional warfare. You have cyber forces disrupting. We had seen what happened to, I think, Japan Airline recently. They are attacking. They are organized, I would say, criminals, and maybe the states are sponsoring them, and they are doing basically sabotage of financial system. So all across, this appears to be no hold barred war, and I would say winner takes it all, like something. But I'm sure if you look at demographics, Europe should actually avoid, America should avoid long wars, because ultimately demographics will decide. I was also reading at some of the Japanese islands which are now empty. Same thing is happening in Spain and Portugal, because wars, they consume a lot of human resource.
Mhm.
Whatever you say it, from logistics up to fighting men, boots on ground. And if you are demographically weak, or you have an aging population, and then you start hiring militias, that's why I think Blackwater also had a lot of Wagner group. And now you find, some of these groups operating in Afghanistan. You will have serious problems. So I think for the sake of international order, whatever is left, they should look at, trying to at least show the semblance of a global order.
Yeah. So let's hope things do work out well for the global order or the global village, whatever you want to call it. That's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching us. Bye bye.